Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. I am here with my friend Tara Brueske, also known as Tara B.
Yeah.
Yes, Tara's
Hey, Bree.
here. We are together. Bree
We
Noble and
are.
Tara. This is like a full circle moment for me because it has been 10 years since I started my first podcast like this, interview type of
Yeah.
podcast, talking about the music industry. And Tara was one of my first 20 guests. I think it's like episode 15. I have to go back and look, but we're
Yeah.
talking about 2015. We were like completely different people back then,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I mean, 10 years ago, you think about a whole decade.
Oh my
I know.
gosh, I was still in my 40s, like early
Yeah,
40s.
me too. Not so much anymore.
No, not so much.
Yeah, it's funny. I just have to say this for any of you listening or watching, but yeah, 10 years. I remember because here's the funny story. So I wrote you, Bree. I remember because I actually heard you on another podcast that someone else had said, go listen to this podcast, which I don't remember that podcast, but I remember you. And so I so felt like I connected with you. And I remember writing to you about the possibility of being on your podcast, and you said yes.
Yeah, you had the one of the best pitches, right? I mean, because in the beginning, obviously, I don't know a lot of people, so I
Right.
was, looking for people that I admired, I liked. I was reaching out to them, but I wasn't getting a lot of pitches.
Mhm.
But then I got this pitch from you, and I didn't know you from anybody. And
Right.
like she gave me all the specifics that she could talk about on the show and her experience. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't I say yes to this? And that's how we met 10 years ago. And we've done so much more since then together, which we'll definitely talk about.
Yeah.
But
So it's so
that's just a testament
good.
about
And I'm
how
so
good
glad
it
we
is.
have this full circle moment.
Yes, I know.
Right. I
So,
didn't even know it was a good pitch then.
oh, right. You just had a lot to say that, you were doing a lot. So, I mean, that's part of it,
Yeah.
right? To actually having something to talk about is important. You can't just kind of fake it until you make it.
Right. No, it is true. I had a goal in mind and I was thinking through, I think, aspects of my life that I had done as a musician, a professional musician. And obviously we've both been professional musicians for years and years.
Yeah, and
Mm.
I mean, ever since then, 10 years ago, we worked together on putting your course out, and then like
Yep.
now we both have written books and
Right.
both have podcasts, and it's pretty cool to see what's happened.
Yeah. Well, and I just have to say this for you, Bree. I mean, because for those of you who don't know, Bree was really a catalyst for me, I think, even to get that booking course out that came out, which now I think 2017 was the
Yep.
first year that came out. So, um, kudos to you for saying, hey, maybe you should think about this.
Yeah. So what we decided is we're gonna come on, once a month and just
Hmm.
have conversations like we're hanging out at a coffee shop or, maybe we met up at an industry event or something and we're just talking about our experiences in the music industry, things that we've helped students with or we've dealt with ourselves that we find are really
Yeah.
helpful to other people in the music industry, especially women. So we're
Yep.
gonna do this once a month, and it's gonna be really fun, and I'm gonna enjoy it because Tara and I are reconnecting. I mean, she used to be one of the mentors in my academy, and I miss that. Honestly, my students do as
Oh,
well.
I miss it too. And when I kind of left there too, it was just at a hard time of my life with my mother. For those who don't know, my mom going through just some major end of life stuff, and she passed away a couple years ago. But yeah, it's just so nice to reconnect here and just talk about the music industry and life. Yeah, how we're doing it.
Yeah, and before we get into this, like if any of you guys have subjects that you would love us to talk about, it would be
Hmm.
cool if you DM'd us on Instagram. We're both pretty active on Instagram.
Yes,
My handle is Profitable Musician LLC because someone stole Profitable Musician. So Profitable Musician LLC. What's your handle, Tara?
Tara Brueske music.
That's easy.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, so reach out to us. In fact, we planned this entire show on Instagram DMs because we like to do voice messages back and forth.
We did.
So yeah, if you want to send us a voice message, do that too.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your voice. It always gives a little bit of a personality behind it, and we love that. So
It
don't be
does,
afraid to reach out.
for sure. So we decided to talk about rejection today because this is something that affects every musician.
Yes.
There is nobody out there, the
Mm-hmm.
most famous star that hasn't been rejected multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's something we need to work through in order to keep going. And we both have plenty of stories of rejection that we're going to talk about. But we thought that this would be a really good subject to start out with. I think especially as women, like it's so hard to deal with that rejection sometime and think I'm just going to keep going because we start to like internalize that as like, well, that's what everybody thinks about me. If this person
Right.
thinks this way about me. And sometimes they don't even think that way about you. It's just the way they come across, or they're
Mm-hmm.
just being dismissive because they're busy. So what we can
Right.
definitely get into that. But what were you, and also I wanted to say this, Tara talks a lot about booking, and man, do you have to deal with rejection in order to keep booking yourself?
It's so true because so often you're always putting out, whether it's a cold call, email, or not even cold calls, just follow up, even after places like that I've sung at. And then you hear nothing. And then you put it out again and you hear nothing and you hear nothing and you hear nothing. And it is so easy to get in your head and say, oh, well, they just don't like me. They don't want me back, or they don't want to try. And I just, when you said internalize, I was thinking that I think, especially as women, because we have that ability to keep a lot of things in our head
Yep.
at one time. And so that like one little thing can just, kind of niggle at us or whatever and feel like, and then that's our focus. We start getting into the negativity versus maybe what's possible or
Yep.
or it's
And
our
and
perception.
right, right. And even if you're not booking yourself, like we have to reach out for different reasons. Maybe you want to get your song onto somebody's playlist, or for me,
Hmm.
like getting sponsors for my newsletter and my podcast. And it's the
Right.
same annoying experience of just reaching out to a ton of people and not knowing what's going on the other side, not knowing what's going on in their head, what they're thinking about you.
Right.
You're only just seeing the feedback on your side and you're making interpretations of it.
Hmm. That's so true. And I don't even think it's just in the reaching out, but sometimes we're experiencing it even from audiences or what we perceive an audience to think about us, like when we're in the middle of a show.
Oh, yeah. Have you had that like check moment in your mind of like, oh, they don't like me, or
Yep.
they're looking at their phone, you
Yep.
know?
I actually I remember I'll just share this because it's pretty fresh in my mind from last summer. So I was doing a farmer's market. And of course there you're singing and people are walking past. So, sometimes they'll stop and listen. And I literally had a guy during a song and I was singing and he yells out, "Hey, do you know like such and such a song?" I can't remember the name of the song, but I'm thinking, okay, first of all, I'm singing, can't really talk to you at the moment. And so I finished the song and then he was still there. So I just said, "Hey sir, what did you say to me?" And then he asked again. And it was some obscure song from some obscure artist. And I just said, "Well, no, I'm sorry. I don't know that." And he got mad and he walked away.
Oh my gosh, whatever.
Kind of like, "Why don't you know the song?" And of course, friends, as like, okay, we know probably hundreds, maybe even thousands of songs. Who knows? But there's millions of
Yeah,
songs.
that's
And yeah. So, after 30 years of singing in this business, it still can happen.
yep. Yep, I know. And my most, I think, formative one around this was early in my career. Um, I there was like this local radio station from where I grew up, and I had
Mhm.
actually gone to the radio station. I guess my mom knew the secretary or something, so I had like used their sound booth to record my audition for my college, music scholarship and stuff like that. So like I had a relationship with this radio station, and so
Wow.
later on when I put out my album and I'm like, oh, of course they're going to play my music, because they know me. And so my mom took it over there and she gave it to her friend that was the secretary. And she's like, okay, I'll give it to the music guy. And
Hmm.
then we didn't hear anything. And so she contacted him. She's like, we sent this in. Like, are you going to play it? And he's like, yeah, she's not really a good singer. So no. And I was like, what? And
Wow.
it just crushed me,
Of course.
especially when I felt like I had a relationship with these people. And it took me a bit to be able to see that in perspective. But I think that the one thing that really did put it into perspective is honestly, that is the only time I have ever heard that comment, she's not a good singer. That
Mm,
is ever since then, that has never been the reason that people didn't want to play my music. It'd be like, oh, it's not our genre, or
right.
I don't know what it is, what their reasons are, but never that. And so I was like, this guy was just being dismissive. I bet he didn't even listen to it.
Probably. Probably didn't even take the time because he didn't want to.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yep.
but I think that's an important thing to realize too, Bree, because it's like when you're saying like you've never heard that. Well, of course you've never heard that. And I know your voice because you have this gorgeous, beautiful voice. But I'm thinking, yeah, for to realize too, like, okay, yes, that was very negative, but you know what you've probably had from audiences now through the years.
Yeah.
And but I think it's so easy for us, yeah, to get stuck in that. Well, and of course you would feel crushed at that age too.
Well, that's the thing. I was a new artist. I had just put out this album. And that's why I think it's so important to have podcasts like this,
Hmm.
is because people can listen to this and go, oh, I didn't have anyone to say to me, oh, yeah, that happened to me 10 years ago and I still have a budding, a great career and all that stuff. And that guy was
Right.
dumb. I didn't have that. I had to like, this is the only feedback I have right now. And it's
Right.
terrible.
Right. I know. And it's that just made me think of too. Because like you said, you thought maybe the guy didn't hear you. I again in the last year, I don't know why this is the last year has been weird because for as many accolades as I've had, there's just been people here and there. But I was singing with a girlfriend as the Beezy Girls. We were a duo for like 10 years, and now we just sing every once in a while together. It was last spring, and a gentleman came who loved my friend Carol's voice, and he came because he knew her. Now, he hadn't heard any of our stuff that night yet, but he came up to us beforehand and he was talking to Carol. And then he looks at me and he goes, oh, you sing with her? I said, yeah. So, saying we had sung for a while. Oh, well, she's really good. I suppose you are. Just, and part of me is like, wow, that's really nice of you to say that.
And that's so great right before the gig, right? You're like, now this is in your head.
Right.
Like, I gotta prove I'm better, than he thinks I am.
Right. Yeah, that's like the first thought. But, I think too, through the years, because of getting a lot of rejections and realizing that, you know what, I can have a great career in the midst of this and have a pretty thriving career right now. I really was able to just kind of go, yep, that's just that guy. He, for whatever reason, it's fine if he likes Carol and he's never heard me, and that's okay. He's
Yeah.
just, he's one person.
Yep, and I think we always have to realize that there are tastes, right? I always think to myself
Absolutely.
when I hear a song that I'm like, why would anyone like this? And then it's like
Right.
everybody is, I love this song. So I'm like, you just have to remember that people have different tastes and there are your people and there are not your people.
Hmm. What do you think, Brie, is like the reason that people take, when they do take rejection, like what is it maybe that they're fearing or, in the moment, or what is it that bothers any of us when we get that?
I think in some situations it hits on an insecurity we already have,
Mm,
right? So if we already feel like for me when I first started booking myself,
hmm.
I was always too afraid to go out as a solo artist, and so I went through this whole period where I was trying to be in these bands and it was all ended horribly. But it was because I didn't feel like I was enough as a solo artist to book myself.
Hmm.
And so then when I finally started booking myself, I got some of my first gigs through referrals, which is great. But then
Hmm.
when you start having to go beyond that and you have to start cold calling people and you send out your stuff, and they're responding to you and you get that rejection, it
Mm,
just solidifies what you already had in your mind. Yep, I'm not enough. They just told me, they just agreed with me, and I shouldn't even be doing this. Even though you've already booked yourself 3 times that week, that one that says no is like confirming what's already in the back of your mind.
right. And is it an amazing how we go to that one thing, even if there's 10 other great ones?
Mm-hmm. That's how it was with the guy who said I wasn't a good singer. Like I had already, so many people were like, this album is awesome. I love it, blah, blah, blah. Your singing is so wonderful. But that
Yeah.
one guy, that's what I think of.
So so I always think too, like, well, how do we combat that? If people are feeling that way, that rejection, what have you found for you that works or just, kind of helps you like move past it? Because obviously when we feel that, we feel it. Our feelings are real.
Yep. Yep. I think, and I always tell my students this too, like having some kind of a thing where you put up all of your good accolades, your good
Mhm.
responses, your good comments from fans, having whatever works for you, whether it's like a folder in your computer, your email, you have a
Mhm.
bulletin board with like little quotes on it or whatever's going to pump you up, or even you should be putting these actually on your own web page, so just go read your own propaganda.
It's very true. I know, and I was thinking too, it's like don't try to, pump yourself up when you're feeling in the moment where you feel that rejection because everything's just probably going to go down a negative
Mm,
rabbit hole. But like if there's a day where you're actually feeling encouraged by something, that might be the time too to think through like, hey, what what have people said? What are some of the positive things, like you said, that I have gotten or um maybe looking at like, oh, I actually booked this many gigs this year. Wow. Or people are buying my music or people came to the concert and maybe one person told you a story of how much they enjoyed it. It's like I think trying to in the moments even when you do feel good to then bank on that.
yeah, you're like, yeah, exactly. I like that. You're storing it up, storing it up for the lean times when you're not feeling it.
I know, and to be honest, I was just saying this to when I was writing a email to my people that kind of follow me for booking. I was just saying like that, like just the whole thing of follow-ups, it can be one of those really discouraging things because you're having to do it all the time. And so we're risking that rejection every time we put something out there. And that is hard. It's not for the faint-hearted.
It's not. It's not. And one thing I would encourage my ladies to whenever they would be in that cycle of like I feel like I'd sit down for booking, I'd put an hour on my calendar and all I'm doing is just sending these follow-ups to people that didn't respond. So it just feels like I'm setting myself up for a second rejection. Like that's my whole hour of my work, and I'm like I totally get that, and it's work that we have to do. And so what I encourage them to do is before they go into that hour, do 15, 20 minutes of rehearsal time.
Mm,
Practice your music. Remind
yeah.
yourself that you are good and there's
Mhm.
a reason that people want to book you. Because when you start actually doing your thing, even if it's just to you,
Mhm.
realize, oh, I do have something of value. Like I need to get this across that this is valuable. And I need to know within myself that what I do is valuable, even if I'm, hearing crickets.
Right. And actually, that singing, I love that because it's also going to kick in your endorphins,
Yes.
which will also help motivate you as you're trying to then book gigs.
Yep.
So Something else I was thinking of too. It triggered something when you were saying that about it'll maybe come back.
Mm. I would say too, like, don't think that the bigger you get, the less likely you are to have rejection. It's always like the new level, new devil.
Yes.
It's like when you first start and let's just say, you put a recording out there and you're only getting a few streams or whatever, and that feels like rejection, or you're not getting responses to your posts on social media. Um,
Hmm.
but that's the learning, the testing ground, and you're doing it a little more in private so you don't have to like experience the fear of public rejection because not that many people are seeing you at that point, right? But when you get bigger and it's like then you do something and there are actually people that notice, oh, only this many people came to your gig or this many people showed up for your workshop or whatever it is, it's
Right.
harder because then you're getting rejection more in public.
Yeah.
So I think building up that muscle when
Hmm.
it's you're smaller and you're the only one seeing the rejection is an
Hmm.
important thing to do because you're steeling yourself for your future rejection that will happen. We will be rejected constantly throughout life, and
Yes.
we have to get used to that.
Well, and if you think about it, so all of us listen to different artists, whether they're indie artists, whether they're famous artists. And my point is that we all have like our favorites, but they're probably all different, which also tells me that people have, like your music is important because you will affect some people that others won't affect.
Mhm.
And, any one of us, like, I don't just have one artist that I listen to. I don't know, I might have five artists in one week, and then the next week I change and listen to five other artists or something. I mean,
Or you're like me and you
seasonally.
have playlists that have hundreds of artists on them, and I put them on random play 'cause I love
Yes.
that.
Yeah. And so I think it's just kind of really reminding ourselves that what we bring is always unique to us. And there is going to be an audience for it because people connect, like you said, differently. I mean, if I go and watch like an American Idol show or something, there's going to be singers that I absolutely love and singers I can't take. And then I'll talk to somebody else and they'll go, "Oh no, I love that singer."
Hmm.
So, I think it's also trying to get out of our head that like there's not only one type of music or one type of singing that people are going to like.
Yeah, and
You're
I
and
think that speaks to leaning into our uniqueness or even our quirks, right? There are
yes.
some like vocal quirks that I hate, but people love them. Like let's say Bob Dylan, because I just
Yep.
saw the Complete
The
Unknown.
movie. Me too.
So good.
Me too.
So good. But
Yeah.
like, when I first was getting into music, I was like, who would like that voice? That's a terrible voice, but then I started to
Exactly.
learn, oh, it's about the songwriting and it's the interpretation and all of that. And he leaned into that. He didn't care.
Mhm.
And so many fans love it. Also, we're approaching it as singers, right? I'm thinking, well, oh, that's technically terrible singing,
Me
but
too.
non-singers, they like it because of the authenticity.
So true. And I think also, like whatever we offer, also trying to really find what are our strengths because each one of us are going to have some of us, it might actually be just the strength of storytelling.
Mm.
Like even as you're going into a song, could be that you tell it in the song, or it might be that you're telling it before the song. Or maybe it's just something of your stage presence, the way that you really like look at the audience or connect with them that way. Or maybe it's the skill level of playing an instrument and
That's
people
exactly
really,
what I was thinking of. Maybe you're not that good of a singer, but your instrument playing is so incredible.
yeah,
That draws people in.
yeah. And just kind of reminding yourself of the things that are, and even sometimes asking or just kind of noticing, like, what is it that your fans, what are they commenting on? Like to take note of not the people that are being critical, but the people that are saying, "Oh, I love this." Like, what is it? So that you can kind of go deeper even into that part of how you're connecting with the audience,
Yep.
you know.
Absolutely.
I know it's funny because I sing in a tribute show now, um, which is the songs of Olivia Newton-John and Anne Murray. And I sing with two other main female singers, and we all have unique voices. Like we all get to blend together, but we've all got our own style and, you know, part of our voice. And, but it's interesting just to see how the audiences respond to different songs,
Mm.
to different voices. And, you know, actually, I'm kind of circling back, but when you were talking about how even sometimes when you get, and I'm not famous, obviously. But when you get a little bit like a different level, you are going to be also prone to criticism because people will also criticize, the more that they see something that's a bigger show or something. And we have found that in very small increments, but it's always interesting again. There's a few people that might totally criticize something, and then there's, 80% that are loving it.
Well, and I think doing a tribute show, you're opening yourself up to a whole nother level because you're being compared to the original artist.
Yes.
Like, that doesn't sound like Anne Murray. That's not what I remember from my childhood.
I know. It's just so interesting how well, and I'll just say this. The one thing I think that is easier about rejection when you are with other people, and this is different than solo artists, but kind of feeling it together so you can
Mm.
kind of combat it together, and encourage each other.
I think that's so true. Like if you're in a band, it's like us against the world. But as a
Yes.
solo artist, it's a little harder.
Yes.
And this is
But
why I built my community because as solo artists, it is so much harder because we don't have that feedback, we don't have that
Mhm.
support system. And that's why I think it's really important to have people in your corner that understand what you're going through because a lot of times your family members don't. They're like, get over
Right.
it. Like, you don't understand. I'm a sensitive artist.
I know, and I think the hard thing too when you're a solo artist is when you're done with a gig, if you have a band, you can all kind of talk afterwards.
Yes, the
Y-
debrief. I miss that. Like when you're in a show, right?
Yeah.
Like you have that with the
Yep.
tribute show. When you're in a musical or something, the
Yep.
debrief is so fun. It's so cathartic. And
It
you don't
is.
have that you go home, especially if you're like on tour, you go home to your room with your unfamiliar surroundings and you look around and go, is that all there is?
I know. And it's, there's one other thing I want to encourage people on this too is that with audiences, when you are singing, don't, I mean, if you can, try to realize that what people's faces are like when you're singing doesn't necessarily mean what they're feeling inside. So, because I perform in Minnesota, we're talking Scandinavians, Germans mostly,
That's
and
all my
a lot.
background. Yes, we're not very emotional, are we?
No, so nothing on the face. Sometimes, honestly, it looks like people hate me. I
Oh
mean,
gosh.
like the face, and then they're not moving. They're just kind of sitting, and I'm thinking, okay, like, and then afterwards, all of a sudden, people will say something like, "Thank you," and so it's so easy to just again our perception, and I think that's one thing I want to just point out is like our perception can be wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, it's really more to encourage people that even if you perceive that, oh, maybe everybody hates you or you think they do, it may not be at all. They might literally be listening, kind of like when people watch TV. They're just watching. They don't know what their face looks like.
That's right. And they're not thinking that you're watching, just like TV,
Right.
right?
Right.
Especially nowadays when people are used to watching so many things on their phone and they're
Right.
probably not even thinking about the give and take of a performance sometime that the person on stage is actually paying attention to what they look like.
Right. So, just to kind of be aware of that scenario, again, it doesn't mean that they're rejecting you. And even if they say nothing to you, that's the other thing. Sometimes people just they enjoy something, but they may not be as comfortable. They may not even be comfortable talking to you. Sometimes people kind of look at you as if you're performing, oh, it's kind of untouchable, like TV.
Yep. Yep.
So so they may not come up and talk to you, but again, it doesn't mean that it's a rejection.
I think that's very true, especially like I see that in the world of social media. There's those people, that they call lurkers, right? They're really getting a ton out of it. They just don't respond for whatever reason.
Right.
I'm a lurker a lot of time. I'm not a person to make a comment on things all the time. It's usually the people that are
Too.
like overly expressive and the people that are evil trolls. Those are the people that comment.
So
So
true.
we don't know what 80% of the people are thinking.
Right. And again, the other thing, I used to always hear this about just this wasn't about music, but just kind of in general about age and how when we're younger, we assume everybody's thinking about us. And then
Mhm.
we get to a point in life where we're like, well, maybe they are. And then you get to a life, older, and it's like, well, nobody really cares.
Yep.
And I'm not saying they don't care, but they're not thinking about us as hard as we are.
And then when you get really old, you're like, I don't care that nobody's thinking about me. I'm just gonna do whatever I want to do. I felt like I hit that a little bit when it was like this immediate moment of like, oh, now I'm 50. I
Yep.
can do whatever I want. No one's gonna care.
It's so
I pulled
true.
back a little bit from that after it was like this wonderful like 3 month period of freedom. I don't know why. And then I think I came back to reality like, oh, 50 is not that old. It's not a big of a deal. But
Right.
I was just like this, like, oh, now that I'm 50, it doesn't matter. Like I can basically just live my life the way I want to live it because nobody cares and it doesn't matter.
Right. Well, and speaking of age, I just think the thing I have noticed even here in Minnesota, is that, I mean, not only my own age, because I'm 56, but it's like even in the tribute show, I'm actually one of the younger ones. And
Hmm.
I'm seeing a lot of people that are performing into their 60s and even 70s that are having quite a career yet. And so I just don't want people to think like if you feel like, well, it's just an age rejection, you know what? When people hear you sing, when they connect with you, if you have that ability, which a lot of times people older will have the ability to connect better with an audience, you know, life experience.
Exactly.
And don't be
Yep.
afraid of that.
50 is the new 30, 60 is the new 40. I really think so.
I know.
I really think so. Well, we were talking at the beginning about how we love podcasts that aren't like an hour long because we
Yep.
have, we're busy people and we're shoving the listening to a podcast into like driving somewhere or going on a walk or whatever. So we decided we wanted to keep these a little bit shorter,
A little
30
shorter.
minutes or less. So is there anything else you want to say about rejection before we sign off on this episode? And we're going to be doing these once a month. So again, please let us know if you have anything you want us to talk about.
Yeah, I think just to reiterate kind of what you said is that we'll all have it at some point. And it won't just stop. But it's just kind of saying like what will we do with it? Because it doesn't have to overtake us. It's like it is a part of life. Not everybody's going to like you. You don't need everybody to like you. You actually need certain fans that love you.
Yep. Again, you only need those, 1,000 true fans to have a full-on career.
Right.
And
And And I have to say this, Bree, because
yeah,
you said this one time. I'm quoting you wrong because I don't remember your exact
okay.
quote, but it was kind of like you kind of know that you've gotten somewhere when you start getting the haters.
Yep. Yep. It's the whole like badge of honor thing
Yeah.
with the haters. And I will probably do an episode on that too,
Yeah.
because it's a little different from rejection because haters are they really get under your skin. It's a little different.
Yeah.
Rejection is just going to
Right.
happen no matter what. Haters are just out to be evil and
Right.
for no good reason and they're ridiculous. But
Yes.
and it's another form of rejection that's even harder to deal with, I think. But rejection is just it's very common. It's in every industry. A
Yep.
lot of times especially entrepreneurs, you have to be willing to get nine no's to get one yes. You have to be willing to fail at four things before you succeed at one thing. That's
Hmm.
just part of the game.
Hmm.
And
And that one thing that you do succeed at, maybe it's even like you book a gig. Well, that gig could turn into 20 gigs.
that's right.
So don't be, I guess just keep persevering. We're living proof of persevering through the years.
Yeah, and I will give a plug for Tara's book because what you said, oh, that one yes that you get could turn into 20 gigs. That's if you have a system to make it turn into 20 gigs, and she
Right.
really helps you get that system of follow up and continued communication with events that you've had, booking follow-ups, booking new, rebookings and all that stuff. So definitely get her book. It's on Amazon. You can just look it up under Tara Brueske,
It
right?
looks
What's the
like
name of
this.
the
Can
book?
you
Oh, there we
see
go.
it?
It's on video.
Wait. Oh, okay. Oh, what am I
Oh, it's
doing?
blurry. There we
I
go.
gotta hold it back here.
There you go. Yes.
There we go. It's 20 must-have booking tips every musician needs.
There you go.
Kind of list. It's blurring. It's because I have a blurred background.
Oh, that's why it's trying to focus
Sorry.
on you and
I
it at the
know.
same time. Yes. Well, this has been
Anyway.
super fun.
Yeah, agree.
And reach out, let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about. I think it's cool to just kind of banter about this stuff because
Mm,
we haven't scripted it. It's from the heart. It's from stuff that we deal with on a regular basis or that we're
yeah.
mentor other musicians around. And so things will come up that are very top of mind that I think that maybe we wouldn't normally say. So I'm excited about us doing this more often.
Me too. So thank you, Bree, for being willing, and thank you to our listeners and viewers as well. So,
Absolutely. By popular demand, my students are like, yes, Tara's back. So I'm excited to keep this going, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
all right. Bye, guys.